Hey community, welcome back. And if this is your first time here, I'm Dr. Blaire, a doc in clinical psychology, and on this channel we discuss psychology, inspiration, social justice, and all topics in between. First things first, hit that subscribe and bell button. I need to see you back next week. And of course, stay tuned because we are again going to tackle an area that you can take on the battlefield. Stay tuned. Before we jump into this, remember the battlefield is a reoccurring series where myself or a community member will come on and discuss an area, a battle that they have fought and or are currently fighting, and it can be a mixture of personal and professional. But the battlefield is, of course, the place that we release, reclaim, and reestablish our justice. Justice for our mind, body, soul, spirit, and for our people. And without further ado, we're going to continue this area of tackling areas that we can take onto the battlefield. And one that I thought of or that came up for me was prolonged avoidance. Prolonged avoidance, which essentially can kind of shift into something more. What is that something more? Quitting. As we know, avoidance or even boundaries sometimes can be confusing. People can kind of twist it up, and it really depends on the angle that you're coming from. Let's not get this confused with boundaries. Boundaries are helpful. They are actually healthy when used properly. But I'm talking about avoidance, prolonged avoidance. This is something that you are actually staying away from, and we're going to get into what are some reasons why one may avoid that are unhealthy reasons why, just to add, because sometimes people try to take my word and put it across the board. This is not necessarily to generalize, but instead to look at particular areas. But when we look at prolonged avoidance, we have to be careful, because if we avoid something for too long, we actually end up forfeiting. We give up the opportunity to gain a progress reward from addressing it. I'll say that again. If we avoid something for too long, we end up forfeiting or giving up the profit or the gain, the reward from progress by addressing it. And so here's the key in it: addressing. We have to address it. Now, I'm just going to be honest. Sometimes addressing it can be a challenge. Sometimes it brings up a lot of emotion. Sometimes it is the very thing that we absolutely don't want to do for a host of reasons. But the big circle around it is, what is that it, and why are you avoiding the it? Right? And so I thought about 3 dangers of prolonged avoidance. And the key word in here is prolonged, because we all have moments where we avoid, and we may have to get our thoughts together before we address it. Maybe we have to come to grapple of what it is that we're actually addressing. But at the end of the day, when it's prolonged, it starts to get a bit dangerous. Here are 3 things that actually can come up that makes it a bit dangerous. So, number 1 is choosing to live in immaturity. Actually kind of hurts when you think about it. Choosing to live in immaturity, arrested development, or even befriending the conflict. So let's take a few steps back. When you choose to avoid something over an extended period of time, and you no longer are even considering the option of addressing it, you are now choosing to live in that conflict, which essentially, if that conflict is on your battlefield, is in your life, then it gets comfortable and you get comfortable with it. So that actually is a form of, well, let's just be friends. Now, I know that I'm just using this as terminology for you to understand, but when you think of what that looks like, it's concerning that we don't want to befriend our conflict because it's just too much to address it. We don't want to become friends and start hugging our conflict because it's too much of a challenge to address it. That's like saying that people who have experienced discrimination and racism and said, instead, you know what, I'm going to embrace it. No, that's an injustice. And now it's an injustice to yourself. You are choosing to play a part in your injustice. Why would you do that? I wouldn't do that. Don't do that. So that visualization actually puts it in perspective, even for myself, with things that I want to address, that I need to address, that we cannot be in a place where we have prolonged avoidance, because it gets dangerous. We don't want to be in a place where we are stuck and we have arrested development. We are no longer able to mature and grow beyond that point because we have befriended the conflict. Don't befriend the conflict. Okay? Number 2, it becomes an indirect attack on your courage. And I talked about this some weeks ago. And if you want to watch that, around how courage is a weapon, it's a tool that you can use on the battlefield. You can click it here. But courage is actually the opposite of courage, is where fear starts to creep in. And so if it is an attack on your courage, then there may be, and you let it to be an attack on your courage, then there may be some fear that's driving there and actually increasing. I actually talked about this the previous week, where we talked about how anxiety is fear, and fear and faith cannot live with one another. And if you want to watch that, you can come here. But essentially, you have to address it. If it is attacking, prolonged avoidance is attacking your courage, then it is encouraging fear. Prolonged avoidance, attack on your courage, then it is encouraging your fear. Courage going down, fear going up. Faith coming down, as we talked about before, fear going up. And that's the exact opposite direction that we want to go in. And 3, it gives the space and opportunity for that conflict to grow. And this is actually makes me think of a garden. Let me just say this, city girl, I do not, I know very, very little about gardening. Not a skill that I have. So if I'm saying something wrong, my bad. Y'all feel free to correct me in the comments because I need to learn. But it gives space and opportunity for conflict to grow. When a plant or even a weed, let's say that, because a conflict could be a weed. When a weed is on your garden or in your land, on your lawn, whatever the case may be, and it's growing, the more that it sits there, the more it has an opportunity to not only grow deeper roots, the more it not only has the opportunity to grow upward more, but if that weed has seeds like dandelion, I don't know, the little white fuzzy situation thing, when it has seeds and it blows, those seeds now blow to another area within your garden, on your lawn, on your land, and plants more weeds in that area, which means that it's going to spread even further, and the process just continues to replicate and multiply. If this conflict is an issue over a long span of time, and you have given it space and opportunity to grow, you have now intensified the amount of work that you have to put into removing those weeds. It's now more work, which actually can make it feel even more daunting. It's growing. It's a larger issue. It's a bigger blob, because now it's given opportunity for fear to continue to increase, for courage to continue to decrease, and you've become a little bit of a friend with it. The friend you don't like being there, which is not really a friend. We make ourselves have to overwork, but it becomes a larger challenge because we chose to avoid over a prolonged period of time. If we're not careful, prolonged avoidance can transfer, or transition, I should say, into quitting. And I did a podcast with Lanita Kapler, who also has a channel here on YouTube. But go to her website, covenantculturenetwork.com, and she has podcast episodes on there. But one of the episodes, we did talk about persistence and quitting. I think we said quit quitting. You want to quit quitting. We need to quit quitting. Everybody. Prolonged avoidance can transition into quitting, but we need to quit quitting. And if you think about it, you eventually or silently start to give up on the matter. You start to forget about the conflict. Not forget about it, but it's just this thing of, I'm not going to give it any energy, any time, any thought. It becomes this thing that's just taking up space and place in your vicinity, and you just succumb to it. You say, okay, well, fine. It is what it is. You get tired. You've grown weary, and you give up. Maybe you've become distracted, or you convinced yourself that you don't care about it anymore, and even started to convince others. But be careful, because all of that might be rooted in a lie. And if that thought, that belief is now rooted on a lie, and that's the foundation, a lie. Lies crumble because they aren't the truth. They aren't strong enough to withhold any true substance. They aren't strong enough to actually be able to take a hit, and they crumble, they fall. which means everything that you built on top of it comes down too. Now, in one perspective, you might say, well, that's a good thing, but it's a cop out. And this goes back again to choosing to live in immaturity. If you have built on something, and this is something negative at this point, if you've chosen to build something negative, a negative thought, negative belief, something that is not helpful for yourself or even others, and you know that it is built on the foundation of a lie, and you know that the moment that something else is substantial and strong enough to hit it, it will all come down. But think about all that time, all of that energy, all of the thoughts, all of the turmoil back and forth that you went through silently instead of actually addressing it at on site early on when you had an opportunity to, and you still have an opportunity to. But this is also future thought moving forward, that as you are tackling avoidance, as you are tackling prolonged avoidance and things turning into quitting, that you no longer do this moving forward. And so just give yourself an opportunity to forgive yourself. You need to just sit and say, all right, here are the things that I've avoided. Here is what turned into me quitting. I actually didn't want to quit. I just didn't know how to overcome it. It's okay to acknowledge those things. And if that is you, if you have anything on that list, then forgive yourself. You did what you thought was going to work in that moment, or maybe you didn't do what you thought was going to work in the moment, but it's done. It's in the past. And so as you forgive yourself and acknowledge the fact that these things occurred, now what am I choosing to do moving forward? Here's the core piece to all of this. What do you do now? How are you going to tackle this now? And sure, one of the key points is always going to be, well, now I'm just going to no longer avoid. Well, sure, but let's go to the deeper part around why are you avoiding? Is it fear? Is it that you don't believe you can do it? Is it that, someone made you feel less than? What is the root of it? And as you get to the root of that concern, maybe then you are able to tackle the avoidance piece. So go back and tackle the fear. Go back and tackle the imposter syndrome. Go back and tackle the disbelief. Go back and tackle all of the negative thoughts and feelings that you've had about yourself that actually came from someone else's mouth. Tackle those things so that you will also tackle the avoidance, and you will also tackle the quitting. This is a season that you just go ahead and make the choice to give up quitting. Go ahead and give up the choice and stop making the choice that you're going to live in immaturity and befriend your conflict. Face it. Address it season. Go ahead, you can put that in the comments. Address it season. This is address it season. So I'm here to encourage you. Address it. Hey y'all, did you go register for the Battlefield Conference? Well, if not, no worries, you still have time. The link and promo code is down in the description box, but that promo code is only good up until September the 23rd at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. I want to be sure that you all have an opportunity to take advantage of that. Now, with that being said, please remember we have a host of wonderful guests and speakers that are going to come and help. Some are licensed clinicians here in the state of Illinois. Others walk in different areas within behavioral health, and they are bringing their expertise. We also have different professionals that are coming to talk about how mental health shows up in their area of work. And of course, as you know, this is for the body of Christ, so we will make sure that we are bringing the word of God and pairing all of this with mental health principles. Nonetheless, you will have an opportunity to hear from professionals and get knowledge. You will be equipped. You will learn how to apply these principles. You will have small workshops to go to. So much more. Head onto the website, click the link, use the promo code, and get yourself an all-inclusive ticket to come to the Battlefield Conference. I am expecting to see you there. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. Share with your community, and be sure that you are sharing with someone specific who might need to hear this. And of course, remember, before you go, and I see you next time, if I'm great and you're great, then we're a great community.